be talking to Eric Knight, who is the director of Freeride Freestyle at AVSC, which is the Aspen Valley Ski and Snowboard Club. AVSC is the oldest youth nonprofit in the valley, serving the youth of our valley since 1937. And today I feel really, really privileged to be talking to the dude who's been there probably the longest. I certainly think of you as the face of AVSC. I've known you for a long, long time, Eric. In order to get my juices going for this interview, I looked back at some of your IG and some of your Facebook, just to see some of the content that you're putting out. I mean, we live in a content-driven world, obviously, and here we are producing a little bit of our own content. But looking back at some of those clips and all those little kids on skis, it's just cool, and it's hard to take it all in and come up with any specific concrete idea of what AVSC. I think the best way to get our talk rolling today is to talk to you about what skiing means to you, what snow sports culture means to you, and then we can go from there.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I've never been on a podcast before, so I feel very relevant today to be on your show. So what skiing and snowboarding means to me, it means everything. I mean, skiing is what brought me to Aspen. It's what made me want to settle down here and have a family and stay here. And it's what's driven me for my entire career and given me purpose and taught me that I can achieve anything that I put my mind to.
That's awesome. That's what I kind of expected you to say, and it'll definitely be a segue into the rest of our talk. I've got 3 kids. They've come up through the club. So as a parent, as a volunteer for the club, as a parent in Aspen, raising kids in this town, I've come up with my own ideas of what the club are, and it'd be interesting to talk to you a little bit about a parent's perspective versus your own perspective, because you've got your vision, you've got your core values, and as much as you try to get kids initiated into Aspen and snow sports culture and mountain culture and all those things, I would imagine that you have a narrative that's specific to AVSC. And I'd love to hear your idea of what that narrative is.
Yeah. Well, if I could just start with the mission statement of AVSC is to create opportunities for the youth of the greater Roaring Fork Valley to engage and excel in winter sports. I mean, and that's as people and athletes. So that's right there really does a good job of summing it up. We're not just trying to create Olympians. We're not just trying to create great skiers. We're trying to create great people. And I feel like if we nail the core values, which are commitment, integrity, and teamwork, that great athletes come out of that. That's the pathway. That's the highway we're putting the kids on, and we're going to create great athletes. But we're focused even more so on creating great people. Within freestyle, we have a goal for all of our programs is to foster a passion for skiing and create lifelong skiers. That's what I want to do more than anything. More again than making Olympians and making the best skiers possible is creating lifelong skiers, because that's really our mountain culture, right? That's what brought us here and has kept us here, and that's what we're doing.
That's awesome. Remind me how many years you've been working in the capacity of as a coach and as a leader at AVSC.
As a coach, it goes back about almost 30 years. I think 29 years, and as program director, this will be my 28th year as program director for AVSC. So I've seen thousands of kids come through our program.
Thousands of kids, and over the course of 3 decades, or almost 3 decades. Tell me some of the the contact that you've maintained or the relationships that have developed with some of those kids. I mean, you get to touch them for what, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 or 7 years, but then they grow up and they either move on or they stay in Aspen in some capacity or another. I would imagine that you've got some pretty long-lasting relationships with some of these kids. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean, that's to me, the best part about being here for so long is I've seen these kids come into the program at 7, 8 years old, graduated 18. Some of them have come back and coached for us and still coach for us. And others have their own kids in our program now. We have, second generation freestyle kids in the program, and knowing, the impact we had on their lives, not just as skiers, but as growing into the people they've become. Your son Tristan and Alex Ferrer are like examples of that. They were in the program at 7, 8 years old, and they're still familiar faces today around AVSC.
Well, that's an interesting segue into Tristan. I was going to try to avoid talking about him, but he's a good example of one of the kids, one of the unique generational kids that you might be putting on the path to the Olympics. Alex has already been to 2 Olympics. I'd like to think that our son Tristan is on his way. But like I said, getting back to what I really think the core is about the club is a rite of passage. Tell me how that rite of passage for the bulk of the kids that you deal with year in, year out. Tell me how that comes back to AVSC.
The rite of passage, how it comes back to AVSC. I mean, I could kind of sum it up with a great little story that came up over the weekend. So this past weekend, we had a Devo mogul competition over at Highlands, and then there's the World Cup going on at Buttermilk, and there's another slope style going on at Snowmass. So much going on. I'm at this Devo mogul competition, and there are these. After the competition's over, and this young group of girls it's fun to see these new groups come through the program, and with certain groups when you're like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be great watching these kids grow up through the club. So I'm talking to these girls, congratulating them on their effort for their first mogul competition, telling them how well they did, and I'm proud. They showed a lot of courage going and entering, skiing against kids from other clubs when they haven't done these official competitions yet. So I'm talking to them, and it's 1:00, and the finals are just kicking off over at Buttermilk. And I said to the girls, I said, normally I always stay for the awards. But today, there's a couple of kids that were in AVSC since they were your age, and now they're in their 20s and 30s, and they're over at Buttermilk in the finals for the half pipe for the World Cup. And the girls were like, who's that? Who? And I said, Alex Ferrer and Tristan Feinberg. And one of the girls goes, Tristan coached me at Glacier Camp last summer. And that's it right there. That's full circle, right? Like they grew up through the club. They still have an impact on kids in the club today. And the way the girls perked up and lit up when they heard Tristan was in finals over at Buttermilk. It was just so cool. And that kind of, to me, like just summed up our culture and the different generations coming through the club and the connection that we all have.
If we had to end the interview right now, I could easily end it, because it brought a tear to my eye, which I think is pretty cool. Hopefully I can pull myself together here for the rest of the interview. I've called you Eric. Most of the people in the Valley at the club know you also as Doughboy. Tell me a little bit about how the nickname Doughboy came about. I'd love to hear that story.
I'll tell you, it's a little more than a little bit, though. So
okay.
In 7th grade, I'm playing pickup football in Cleveland with my neighborhood friends, and I was a big guy. I was a little overweight, and no one could tackle me. I was like the default running back, right? So I'm like dragging these kids down the field, a couple on my leg, one kid on my back, and one of the kids goes, I can't tackle that guy. He's the Pillsbury Doughboy. and from that day on, it just stuck. So fast forward about maybe 7 years onto that, I was working at a pizza place in Ellicottville, New York, also known as Aspen of the East. And people there thought they called me Doughboy because I'm throwing pizza dough in the air. It's Doughboy. He makes the pizza. So, the name really stuck. Moved to Aspen, started doing well in some pro competitions, started winning a lot, was winning some good prize money, and some people in Aspen said, Doughboy, he's always in the money. And they thought the reason they called me Doughboy is because I win this money in pro freestyle competitions. So then fast forward a few years to that, I was on the British ski team. And I said, some people call me Doughboy. And the British guy goes, Doughboy? That's what they called Americans that helped the British during World War I were doughboys. So that's why they were like, they thought that was related to my name of Doughboy. And I'm hoping there's a final chapter when I hit the Powerball and Doughboy is even more fittingly still stuck to me. But I take it as a term of endearment and enjoy how long the name stuck with me.
I had no idea it was a 4-layered nickname. I mean, there's tiers. He's getting better and better and better from the time you were a little kid until the time you skied on the English ski team. That's awesome. I didn't expect that. So let's get back to skiing. I'm familiar with ski clubs all over the country because I've got kids. I got one kid skiing at a really high level, as we just mentioned. I know ski clubs from Vermont to Colorado to Utah to California. AVSC being around as long as it has and having had as many kids through it as it has is got quite a reputation, and in large part due to people like you. It's just it's the backbone of ski culture in this valley. I don't know, I can't imagine what Aspen, what Snowmass, what the rest of the valley would look like without this pillar of the community driving ski culture. It's critical. It's our life's blood. And here you are running what a lot of people think is one of the more robust ski programs in the country, in Park and Pipe, in Big Mountain, in moguls. We need not get into Alpine and Nordic and all that stuff because that's for another day. But the billion-dollar question in this interview, I guess, is as robust as that program is, what in the heck inspires you to stay after it year after year, decade after decade, and maintain life at the pace you're doing it at? It's an inspiration to me, and I want to hear what your inspiration is. I think that's a critical part of your narrative.
My inspiration is the kids and the coaches and the culture that we've built and keep trying to elevate. It's changing people's lives. It's helping kids grow up into strong, resilient young adults, and along the way, someone told me once their definition of professional nirvana was doing something you love, working with people you respect, and contributing to a greater good. And when I heard that for the first time, I'm like, that's what we got. That's what I do.
Wait a second. Can you hit us with that again? I think that's critical.
Yeah. My friend told me the definition of professional nirvana, in his opinion, was doing something you love, working with people you respect, while contributing to a greater good. And that sums up AVSC for me right there. And the history has just kept me there even longer, seeing these kids grow up through the program, seeing these kids now enter into the program and developing through. The relationships working with coaches for 8 years, for 10 years, for 14 years with the same people. It's just really a special thing. Most people don't get such a blessed chance to do something like that and call it work for their life.
That's awesome. And I didn't anticipate that either. That was really, really cool. I'm going to have to talk to you after this interview and take some notes on that personal nirvana. That's really special. So coaching, I get that part, and I understand how as a function of doing something year after year and getting really good at it, it puts you in a position or gets you in a comfort zone of being able to share some of your skill sets. I've been a leader here and there throughout my life. Obviously, as a father, I'm forced to lead to an extent. I've owned my own businesses here and there, and one of the more difficult things I've ever encountered as an adult is leadership. It's not easy. It seems like you're a natural at it. And I'd love to hear how leadership came to you and what transpired. I don't know if there was a specific event or a time in your life when you said, you know what, I've got something that I can share with younger people and help them understand a lot of the things that I've learned.
Well, the way I came about and came on to coaching, I think it was 95. I was competing on World Cup, and when I was in town, I'd occasionally come across this newly formed group of athletes, and it was the freestyle program. And at that time, it was called like a satellite program within the ski club. Like they weren't quite sure if it fit in the ski club, so they were like, "We'll give you a try for it." And I wasn't very involved, but when I'd see them in town, I'd make some runs with them. It was a really fun group of kids. So once we set up a plan, let's meet at Saturday at the gondola. I had a whole day. I'm going to ski with these guys. Meet them. There was a coach. His name was Alex Milton. He was from North Carolina, and he had a heart of gold, but he didn't have a lot of freestyle skills. I think he had a book about skiing freestyle that he got most of his information from. So we're meeting, and I'm on top of the gondola steps. Alex is down talking to some parents down there, and the kids are up with me. And the kids grab me. They're like, let's go, let's go. I'm like, what about Alex? And they're like, come on. And the kids start running to the gondola. So I'm like, oh, better go with the kids. So I jump in the gondola. One of the kids says to another kid, okay, give it to him. And they hand me this handful of money, like 20s and 10s and 5s, like in a big wad, and hand it to me. And that was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, wow, they're so psyched to ski with me. They're going to hand me money to ski with them all day. And that was kind of a light bulb moment. And it was just enjoyable for me to ski with kids who respected, my advice and my coaching and hung on every word, and they ripped, didn't have to wait for anybody. And it was just clicked right away. So it was kind of a natural progression as I started slowing down my competition and competing less, and to start coaching more. And that's what wound me up today. And then on the topic of leadership, I think first it came with just being the expert in the room and having the most knowledge, but it's just a never ending path learning about leadership. Like I feel like I've learned more about leadership in the past 2 years than probably 10 or 20 years put together on top of that. And it's just trying to continually get better and learn about myself and lead to the best of my ability.
That's awesome. I was going to save one of my next questions for the end of our little discussion here today, but I think that what you just said is a really good segue. Because you and I, we get together a couple times a month, 3 times a month. We try to grab a beer on Friday night, and we catch up on ski culture, on club topics, on all the really cool things. And I know as a parent, as a husband, as a member of my community, I don't have 1/10 of it figured out, and I'm willing to admit that humbly and modestly. And I'm looking for answers. When we were younger, we used to thrive on mystery, but when you get older like us, it's good to have some answers, and it's good to have people and events and books and podcasts to help put us on an interesting path to go down and figure some stuff out. And I know I'm always asking you, what is some of the cool stuff on your radar, some of the cool coaching podcasts, some of the cool stuff that's helping you as a coach, helping you as a leader, and helping you as a dad.
Oh boy, there's a lot there to unpack, but a huge inspiration to me over the past few years has been a guy by the name of Tyler Johnson. He is not only works for the Positive Coaching Alliance, but he also works with athletes and teams individually through his own business, Elevate, Rejuvenate, Educate, and he has a great podcast. It's about 30 minutes. He interviews mental performance coaches, sports psych people from around the world, the topics in their field. They're about 30-minute episodes, and I really eat those up, and those lead on to other people. One guy he had on recently, Brett Ledbetter, question-based leadership. That's a outstanding book that I'm working on right now. And like you said, it's like you're learning by asking questions, not telling people things, but by understanding your other people and yourself. So that's it. I'm like, I have a stack of books that yet to read that I can't finish one fast enough to start the next one. And I don't do a lot of driving, but anytime I'm in the car for a little while, I'm like, oh, great, this is a good chance to listen to another podcast here.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's hard to keep up with all the media that's out there, but to have guys like you help us separate the wheat from the chaff. And we obviously have very similar interests. We live in a real small mountain town, and we're ski guys. We're ski culture guys. We're parents, and we love kids. You obviously love kids. What's not to love where short people on skis and snowboards are concerned? It's the best form of controlled chaos that I've ever experienced as an adult. It's cool.
It is cool. You know what? What's neat is we get these kids in their best form. Like they're where they want to be. They're doing what they want to be doing, and we're facilitating that. And not only that, we're teaching them how to fly. Like what more could a kid ask for?
Well, I can see how that is rewarding in and of its own right. One touchy question that I want to ask, because it's got to be packed with a lot of interesting anecdotal wisdom, is you deal with the kids of the valley, and I would imagine that 98% of that they're showing up with smiles on their faces, and they're getting picked up with smiles on their faces. And I'll never forget when I was a young dad teaching my kids to ski, and they would always ask me, who's the best skier on the hill? And I would always unequivocally, without flinching, say, the best skier is always the little person with the biggest smile on his or her face at the end of the day.
Right. Who's having the most fun?
Yeah, 100%. But as a parent in a ski club, which is packed full of competition and all kinds of intrigue and compelling things going on, and I mean, competition, it can bring out the best in us and it can bring out the worst in us. I'm well aware of that. I was the father of a kid that competed at a really high level when he was really young, and he was different. And then my other kids came along, and they just kind of competed. It wasn't the be all end all of their day or their life like it is for Tristan. But what's it like dealing with some of the parents in this valley? And I don't want to hear any of the negatives. I'm sure there's a lot of negative stuff, but tell me about some of the really good compliments you've gotten from parents who just they ended up with AVSC. They ended up under the free ride, free ski wing of the club. Tell me some of the cool things that some of the parents have shared with you about helping their kids with this rite of passage, with becoming initiated into snow sports culture, with being part of a team, et cetera, et cetera. Tell me some of the cool stuff that parents have shared with you.
I mean, the most impactful, and I've heard it so many times, is parents that come up and say, you've changed my kid's life. Right? Like that's what, I don't know how you could reach any bigger than that. And not only that, it's like, I got to see that I got to see that evolution happen. I got to see that our impact touch those kids. And knowing it, parents tell me all he wants to do is ski. He doesn't want to play baseball anymore. He doesn't want to play other sports. Even in the summertime, all he wants to do is go to buttermilk and ski. And I'm not for just one sport. I'm totally into multi-sport kids like that. But that's the biggest compliment when someone's kid doesn't want to do anything but ski with us.
Well, that kind of made me chuckle because I got to be honest with you. I can't remember when Tristan started with the club, and this probably happened before he was with the club, because when he turned 3, if he didn't get to go ski every day, he just assumed that, I took him skiing on the weekend. He just assumed Monday was the same as a Sunday or a Saturday, and he was going to get to ski. And it did not go well, because if he didn't get to ski, it was rough. And we got to go to work. We got to make hay. And when he was 3 years old, he just thought skiing was what he got to do. But to have a parent say something like that, I can imagine how impactful that is. I mean, I've been around here forever. I've coached hockey. I've coached Little League baseball, but I've never ever had a parent say, "You've changed my kid's life." That's really, really special. And I think that's a testament to what the club does. It's a testament to, your position and your tenure in our ski community, and how significant a community partner the club is. It's a difficult thing to find a metric for. How much impact does any one institution have on our lives, or our kids' lives, or whatever. But when a parent can say something like that, that's special. And I applaud it. In a way, I envy it. It's just really, really cool, Eric. And I would have to say the same exact thing. I'm sorry for never saying it, but you certainly have changed Tristan's life forever. I would imagine that the day's coming when he's gonna probably pay you that accolade back in spades.
Thanks. Parents, we're really blessed in freestyle. We have great parents. You're in the our Parent Hall of Fame right now, but a lot of parents, freestyle being kind of newer sports, especially free ride and park and pipe and moguls for that matter. Not a lot of parents competitively did that. So a lot of parents don't come in as former experts in the sport, which I think it complicates things. And then I've learned over the years, parents really just want what's best for their kids, and helping understand what's best for their kids, and what we're doing is the best connection we can make with parents. Yeah, but I want to tell you a story about impacting youth that's might bring me to tears. So a couple of years ago, some older couple came into the club. Their daughter had passed away from a drug overdose. They had 2 grandkids. They were 10 and 8. The father was not in a position to take care of the kids, so they went to live with their grandparents in Aspen. And the grandparents said, "Can you help our kids? Our grandchildren, they really, they're going to need a lot." So we put the kids in our full-time program, full cost. Don't worry about it. He's doing our program. It's going pretty good. You could see the pain on this kid's face daily. The coaches all took some special interest in it. His coach comes up to me as we get into the winter and goes, "We got to suspend this guy. I warned him 3 times. I keep giving him another chance, and he's getting into it with other kids on the chairlift, so we need to suspend him." And I'm like, "No, we're not suspending him." I was like, "You have him come to me for next Wednesday for practice. Have him come to my office." So this kid shows up on the Wednesday early release. So let's see. I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So we go to the side yard next to the ski club where we have a jump and an airbag set up. I have him start stepping the in run and slipping it, and we're working on the jump. I start sending him in to get 5-gallon buckets of water. We're icing the jump up. After a while, he's like, "This is kind of fun helping you." I said, "Don't get in trouble again, or it's not going to be fun next time." So we're working on this jump. And as we're walking through the club, the kid sees these Armadas. He's like, wow, those are cool skis. And he's really like daydreaming on these Armadas. I said, you want a pair of Armadas? I said, I'll get you a pair of Armadas. You show great teamwork and great effort, and I'll get you those skis. Well, 2 weeks later, his coach goes, so I don't know what you said to that kid, but he's a changed person. So he got those Armadas. He's still on the team. Just this year, he's had his first athletic success of his life, being on a couple of podiums. And we're changing his life every day. And that's what we do.
Well, Joe, that's the second time you've made me cry. That's incredible, and I hope there's people out there that are going to see and listen to this, and it'll have the impact that it's certainly having on me, because that's what coaches and teachers do. I mean, Denise, my wife, and I have always felt that teachers and coaches are the most important people in the world outside the home, and in many instances they're just the most important people in a kid's life anyway. This is obviously an example of that. Tell me something. In 30 years, you've got to have a mountain of experience. Hit me with and this may be a tricky question, but if you could, hit me with a couple of pearls of wisdom, just something that you've taken away from decades of experience dealing with parents, dealing with athletes, dealing with peers, dealing with any one of a number of administrative logistics, all the stuff that you've dealt with in 30 years. Hit me with a couple of pearls of wisdom.
Oh boy, that's a tough one. A couple of pearls of wisdom is, perception is reality. You need to create the perception and the reality that you want to be true. Doing everything from the heart. Follow your heart, and you won't go wrong. Another one I love is the friction between opinions is where true education lies. And trying to remember that, when you do have conflict and when you do have struggle. I found that one helps me out a lot. And in the past few years, the attention we've put and what I've learned into mindfulness and the importance of breathing. About almost 2 years now, I've been on a good path of doing yoga like 5 or 6 mornings a week, and incorporating some meditation into my life. So that's meant a lot too. And that you never know everything. The coach who knows everything and it's already made, that's not the coach you want. You want the coach that's open to learning and being open to new ideas and continually trying to improve.
All right, that's the third time you've brought me to tears. Didn't expect that one, but I really, really appreciate sharing that. That's really cool. Let's just say you're on a plane or a train or a bus, and it's hard to sit next to a stranger anywhere in this town, because we live in a town of 7,000 full-time residents. It's in the last few years it's got a little weird with it growing some new and interesting boundaries, but I still love this town. I think one of the most coolest things about it is that everybody. You go to the grocery store and you can hardly get your grocery shopping done because you're seeing everybody that and from aisle 1 to aisle 7. But let's just say you're sitting on a plane next to some stranger. How do you explain to that stranger what you do for a living?
I'd say I run the freestyle program for the Aspen Valley Ski Club. We teach kids how to fly, and I tell them I have the best job in town, in my opinion. And that we have 300 kids in the freestyle program, and the ski club has about 3,000 total, and we're the largest and oldest nonprofit in the Roaring Fork Valley.
All right, that's legit. Tell me now. We're not spring chickens, you and I. I think that you've got years, if not decades, left to your career at AVSC. But in some of our talks, once a week, Friday night over a beer, we do talk about podcasts and ways in which we find ourselves in positions to get better. But what are some of the goals that you've had as in leadership at AVSC, or what are some of the goals that you've had just in general, that you are just a little bit out of reach, that you're going to pursue, and you may relentlessly pursue them, or they may just be distant stars out there on the horizon. But tell me something about some of those goals.
Some of those goals, tough one. Well, like we said before, it's always striving to improve, trying to get better. But I have goals in the future of establishing a landing bag site with a lift in Aspen that would start bringing more skiers from the outside here and start allowing our skiers to travel even less. And it would serve all of our programs from moguls to park and pipe to free ride, snowboard, would be part of it. And I just think that would be the most incredible facility if we could build something like that. So that's kind of a big long-term one. Others, like I said, in just the past couple of years, we added some more mindfulness training, and this year we have all the comp teams from U12 on up doing some meditation, and we actually have pre-competition guided visualizations for them that they're listening to, and it's really cool to see what that's done, and there's no limit to where you could go with that stuff. Still waiting produce some more Olympic medalists other than just Alex Ferreira, and I think there's plenty others in the pipeline, and way down the pipeline there's gangs of kids coming up. That's motivation and future goals for me, to make sure that everything's in place for those kids to excel and have no limits.
I love that. It's good to have concrete goals like new club infrastructure. It's good to have long-term goals like developing more kids. I love the mindfulness stuff. I wish that was a bigger part of the program, back when Tristan was younger. But I think that every club is in every sports discipline, not just clubs, but every sports discipline, every coach, every mentorship program is really starting to focus and hone in on the importance of the mental side of things, the meditative side of things. It's not just go out there and ski your best or knock down as many people as you possibly can. And that's what prepares these kids for life too. I mean, let's face it, not all these kids are going to become Olympians. We're trying to turn them into good people. And again, one of the biggest reasons why we wanted you on the show today was so that we could communicate to people that that's exactly what AVSC is doing, not only now, but since 1937. And that's really remarkable. All right, I got to get to a fun question here. Everybody knows now that you're from Cleveland. I'm a little bit disappointed that you're not wearing a Mavs hat or a jersey or
Mavs. This is actually a Cavs finals hat from 2015.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. How unsophisticated of me. That's awesome. All right, if you could inject yourself into a sporting event, playing for the Mavs, playing for the Browns, playing for the Guardians, it doesn't matter. Baseball, football, basketball. I know those are your top three. What team would it be for, and what position would you be playing?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I don't think it'd be the Cavs, because we won a championship in 2016, first one of my lifetime. So that box is checked over there. So that leaves the Browns or the Indians/Guardians. The Browns is such a mess right now, I don't think I can go there. So I think I'd have to play for the Guardians. think I'd be the designated hitter for the Guardians. I think that's where I put myself today.
All right, I love that, and that's a perfect thing to conclude our discussion on because, as you know, I'm a baseball guy myself, and I'm not necessarily sure I'd insert myself into the lineup as a DH. I'd probably want to be in the mix a little bit more. I love getting dirty out there in the field, not just on the base paths, but that's good, and that's something that we conclude on. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that you do for your community. I feel blessed. Truly blessed to know you. I feel truly blessed to have you as a community partner, and I just want to thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you, and it's parents like you, it's community members like you that make this place so special.
All right. See you soon, buddy.
Thanks.
That was good.
Did that go good? How
I
long
think
was
so.
that?
It was 40 minutes,
Right on.
and I was shooting for between 30 and 45 minutes. I mean, that's the first one I've ever done, so.